Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun,
Hello,
dun.
everyone, and welcome to Magma Ragers episode 54. I'm joined by Pandemonia as usual, and it's been a bit of a quiet week in terms of the Witchwood news. We're leading up to the spoilers starting soon for the cards. So we've got some kind of great in-between content here to bring to you to keep you informed. And, we're going to talk a little bit about the rotations that are happening and just some of the other kind of smaller news. Items that have kind of happened during the week. So, to kick that off, let's first talk about the arena changes. So, we spoke about this in a previous episode, how they were changing arena to be based on picking cards of similar power level. But the result of that was that there were just too many powerful cards being picked in arena. And the community wasn't, the arena community in particular, wasn't really happy with the way this was working. So they kind of have tuned down the power level of the average cards being offered. They're offering more below average cards, and also offering more legendaries.
Less
Or sorry, less
legendaries.
legendaries because yeah,
Because
there was just too many legendaries that were being offered. So yeah. That's going to be changed. So one thing that you'll notice, if you did draft a deck before they made these changes, then yeah, you'd be in a pretty good position because you'd have a generally more powerful deck than people drafting now.
oh yeah, that's true.
So
I wonder if they would do a thing though where like they will stop. They'll reset people or
no, I
not.
mean they haven't. They definitely
Yeah.
haven't. This has already happened like a lot.
Oh right. Yeah.
So it definitely hasn't happened. They definitely didn't reset people or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, so the arena has changed a bit. Panamonia and I haven't really been playing much arena, mostly focusing on standard. But I did play a little bit, and it did seem like the power level was a little bit too high. But it is something I kind of worry about with the standard rotation happening. A big theme for this episode. Kind of what's going to happen when the pool of cards gets even smaller. Now you have even less cards to pick from when offering cards of a similar power level, and that's kind of one of the things that a lot of the decks and a lot of the offerings, even during the draft of the three cards, became a little bit samey because it was difficult to pick three cards around the same power level that weren't the same three cards all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be a bit of a worry going forward.
And also, because you still want the diversity of arena, because for a lot of players, the reason to play arena is because they want the variety and diversity, and they don't want the
Mm.
monotonous, the same old feel that standard has, right? I mean, if you speak
Yeah,
to nearly any of the top arena players, why do they enjoy arena? It's because it's not constructed.
yeah,
They don't have to face tier one decks with the same legendaries, the same cards over and over again.
yeah. So go ahead and try the new arena and see how it goes. By now, hopefully, most of the old OP decks are out, and you can still get your wins.
Yeah.
And hopefully, they won't make you too angry if you do lose to them. And speaking of angry, we are losing the enrage keyword in Hearthstone.
Uh, oh, that was real smooth. Real smooth. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Panamon, you want to tell us a little bit about why the enrage keyword's going away and what exactly is happening?
So basically, what's happening is as few words as part is they are simply they're taking away the keyword enrage and replacing it simply with wild damaged. So if, like just to make anybody who's watching or listening at ease, functionally nothing changes.
Yeah,
The interactions are all still the same. It just means that it's no longer a keyword. So what they've done previously is they've added some keywords previously. Most notably, I think poison was one of them.
yeah,
And part of it, part of their philosophy and what they've written about in terms of keywords is about creating things to make it easier, for new players, and also going forward, it makes it easier to streamline, different mechanics and things. But one of the reasons they specifically targeted in this case Enrage was they had, first of all, there's not that many cards or minions with Enrage,
mm-hmm.
but also and just judging from the article about it, they want to can't they don't they're not looking at making that many more.
Yeah,
And also specifically they're not going to make cards centered around the interaction. So like now,
yeah,
previously there were cards that interacted with, like you had Brand Bronzebeard, which said all battle cry minions.
yeah,
Uh, You had what's it? There's a druid card that gives all taunt minions a buff.
Yeah.
So what they signal with this is, they're going to,
Yeah,
some,
as it was, they didn't have any of those cards that were based on the enrage keyword being on a card, and basically, as you're saying, they're not really planning on doing any of those cards going forward, designing any cards like that. So basically, they're just trying to remove a keyword, make it simpler so you have to learn less keywords, which they can be quite ridiculous when you have to learn all the keywords and their differences. I mean, as we both experienced from a game like Magic, for example, and so basically they're just replacing it with more explanation of the actual functionality, right? Like enrage is basically just replaced by two words, wild damage, so it doesn't make too much difference in terms of the kind of amount of space it takes up on the card either. So yeah, it should work out fine for the game going forward. It's just an interesting thing, and of course the quest as well to play enraged minions is also being removed.
Yeah, because there will be, and also you don't really want to make a quest going play 10 minions that get a buff while damaged. You don't want to, like, it would be a very awkward quest to phrase, right?
Yeah, that would probably be the one time when rage is more useful than having just wild damaged, right?
Just trying to explain the quest,
Yeah, that's the only thing built around the enrage mechanic, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the other things that's happening this week is the StarCraft Anniversary Brawl. So the way this brawl works is you get to pick one of 3 portals at the beginning of the game, which adds a set of 20 portals of this kind into your deck. You have tech portals, mind portals, and swarm portals. Tech obviously representing Terran, mind representing Protoss, and swarm representing Zerg. And basically what these portals are going to do is they're basically just portals that operate a little bit like Unstable Portal, if I'm not mistaken.
And they cost 1 mana.
Yeah, so they cost 1 mana, and they also reduce the cost of cards, I think by 3, right?
By 3, yeah.
Yes. And you put them in your deck, and then they can kind of give you cards from a range of
like
options.
Themed cards.
Yeah,
really.
A range of options which are themed. So like for Terran, we have like Iron Juggernaut, Mechaneer Thermoplug. So you get these kind of like, engineering buildy kind of themed for tech, which makes sense. And then for like Protoss, you have the Darkness, Shaku, Archmage Antonidas, so much more like spellcastery kind of things. Mindbreaker, that's obviously on your mind theme.
Yeah.
And then Zerg, you have more minions that are about like, I suppose generally like generating other minions in a lot of the cases, like Sherizen
and a lot of sort of beast vibe as well.
Yeah. Felderai, which gives you like a swarm of spiders in a way. So I mean, those are the kind of minions, and you can also get spells from these portals, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a little bit disappointing. I think we were definitely expecting something more StarCrafty themed rather than just using existing cards.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. I mean, especially with all the hype surrounding it. I mean, they've been posting multiple where they've showed about look at all these celebrations across the different platform, their different games, and look at the cool skins you get. In I think in StarCraft they've got special skins. In Overwatch, I was really hoped. I mean, it's not even as far as I'm aware. Like when I looked at it, it didn't even look like it was a StarCraft themed board.
No, there's no real
StarCraft themed.
Yeah,
there's very little.
They just took all the cards and went, these would be Terran cards, these would be Protoss cards, and these would be Zerg cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even the design of the brawl, like the fact that it's so similar to the Portal vibes, it feels very lazy. It feels very almost like, crap, guys. The deadline for submitting the brawl is tomorrow. Is tomorrow. What are we going to do? Oh, I know. Let's just reskin.
It's kind of like what can we do without adding the minimum amount? And I suppose it's a little bit of a design thing. If they had to design cards for each of the classes, maybe it would have been a bit much. But ultimately, like I'm still a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for some Zerglings or some Firebats.
Some voice lines would have been cool as well. Some sort of character lines which had like StarCraft themed or something.
Yeah, or even if they just gave us like one class that was had a hero portrait that was like
Raynar, or
Reyna
I mean
or
Kerrigan, or
yeah, Kerrigan, anything like that. That would and then had like some voice lines. That would have even just been better, right?
yep.
Then they could have still used normal cards and done a similar kind of thing here with the portals where they classify
It was
them.
like
But
a bit
anyway,
minimal effort on it. That's the thing. At the end of the
yeah,
day.
I just yeah, I'm not the big fan of the mechanic itself with the portals either. But anyway, it is definitely something you should go and do regardless because it's still going to give you three Kobolds and Catacombs packs for participating. I think you still have to win, right, to get the
Yeah, you have to
packs.
win. Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
win one Tavern Brawl game.
yeah.
So you still have to endure it for at least one game.
Yeah.
And
Best of luck to everyone to get that over and done with as fast as possible, as is pretty much how I go about doing most of the brawls. Um, and then for a change, we've gotten a much more detailed Witchwood schedule, release schedule. You
spoiler.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, spoiler schedule. We've had like some schedules before about when, like, let's say cards will be released at these times, but now we even got some spoiler art for each of the times. We know who's going to be revealing these cards, and we even know the names of the cards, which is definitely a departure or an addition to what they're doing this year. And I mean, some of the names give us some indication maybe as to what the cards might do if you know your World of Warcraft lore enough. You know, we have cards like Lord Godfrey, which I'm sure is associated with some character in WoW that has some kind of abilities that you could maybe guess. Have a guess at what the card actually does. I mean, we're not by any means WoW lore experts, so we're not going to go into too much guessing what the cards do. But you know, there's definitely some hints at what you can maybe expect the cards to do in their names, or possibly even just which classes they belong to.
Exactly. I mean, like the first one that jumped to me is Druid of the Scythe. Probably a Druid card with choose one on it.
Yeah,
Arcane Keysmith is probably a mage card. Like those sort of things.
yeah. So you know, there are some kind of hints here in some of the cards. The reveals are going to be starting on the 26th of March, and they've also given us pretty much like the links, or at least the Halfbone page has the links to who's going to be revealing all the different cards. So you kind of know who beforehand who to keep an eye on for each of the card reveal. And I think that's going to help the content creators that are revealing these things, or the streamers, or the players, or whatever, the websites, generate more hype right before the cards are actually released, which is obviously good for these different,
Yeah.
you know,
It's good to see
revealing
Blizzard.
people.
It's good to see the Blizzard marketing, I think, doing more and realizing that they can capitalize on the hype and get more people talking about it. So like now, like specifically this time, by releasing the names, they even create more conversation.
Yeah,
Because previously, if you release the pictures, people can obviously look at the pictures, but now that you've given them the actual names, people who know the World of Warcraft lore can speculate. They can, suggest what they are. There's so many threads and forum discussions. I mean, this is really, I think, the Blizzard and Hearthstone team, our marketing guys, are really starting to get good at this.
yeah.
They're getting much better, shall I say?
Yeah, I mean that's always good to see. So, I encourage everyone to speculate ahead in our comments section. We'll definitely, respond to any comments there about any speculation. But I mean, we don't really know enough about the lore at this stage to go into it. But I'm definitely interested to hear any of the viewer speculation as to what's going to be happening. So we also have our tip for this week, which is also related to the rotation and the coming year of the Raven. What's going to be happening is that they're going to be having a celebration for the year of the Raven to kind of hype up that the coming year. It's going to be starting on the 26th of March when the card reveals start again, going up until the April the 9th. It's 2 weeks, which is I assume when we can expect basically most of the card reveals to be during, and it maybe gives us a hint that the expansion could be released somewhere around April the 10th. That is a Tuesday, which is a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are kind of days they like to release generally. So I think we could see maybe the expansion released on April the 10th. But the way this
So
celebration is...
time to get sick that day, right? Time to get ready to be sick that day at work.
Yeah. So the way this celebration is going to work is for each quest you complete during that time period, you're going to get a card pack from one of the Year of the Raven sets, which will include the Witchwood. So it'll be from the sets we've seen so far from the last year. So Ngoro, Knights of the Frozen Throne, and Kobolds and Catacombs, and then also you can get Witchwood packs, which will obviously only be able to open when the expansion is released. So the most efficient way to do this is to start saving your packs at the latest. Start saving your quests, because you want to go into the first day having 3 quests, daily quests available. So you need to start saving them latest the 24th of March. But something that we would suggest is to at least have 2 quests at all times up until going in on the 25th. This is the last time you want to have. Well, yeah, even on the 25th, you want to have 4, right? So that on the 26th, when it ticks over, you get the 3rd one. And the reason we suggest that... yeah, sorry, 2, sorry. The reason we suggest that is so that if you have a quest that's like, deal 30 damage to enemy, or deal 100 damage to enemy heroes, right? Or win 3 games, you can still keep playing Hearthstone without the fear of using up your last quest. So only on the 25th, you would have to not play if that was the case, where you had one of those quests. If you had 2 quests in your slots and you're not a 3rd one that you could at least complete. So yeah, point is you want to go into the 25th or the 26th with 2 quests available, and the latest time you can start saving them is the 24th. So that's the way to kind of maximize to get an extra 2 packs out of what you might theoretically get from your daily packs, assuming that it does work with the saved quests as well.
Yeah, I mean, no.
Yeah. So the other thing, the main feature for today's episode is going to be us discussing the rotation that's going to be happening with the Year of the Raven. So what's obviously going to be happening is a lot of the cards, basically 2 expansions and a adventure are going to be rotating out of the standard set when Year of the Raven becomes active, when the Witchwood is released. So, we've spoken about this a little bit before, but it was Stan Sifka here who made a nice picture summarizing some of the key cards that are going to be rotating out, so from each of the expansions. So first we have Whispers of the Old Gods. Obviously, the key thing here is the Old Gods themselves that are rotating out. And Zoth and Yacharge, the most relevant ones, and Cthulhu and Yogg, not really seen much anymore these days. One Night in Karazhan, I mean, the card that I'm most happy to see leaving from there is Barnes. Barnes really led to some very swingy games, and it made all the decks that ran Barnes so reliant on having Barnes on 4 that it was just...
3.
yeah, or 3 with the coin. That it was just not fun to play against them, and not necessarily that fun to even play them. And then we also have Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, with quite a lot of relevant cards rotating, notably the Jade mechanic as a whole. So, your Ayas, Jade Claws, Jade Idols, all of the Jade decks losing all of their Jade cards. So no more Jades in Standard, no more little green men turning into big green men.
Just very big game.
Yeah, and then we're losing all the rest of the kind of singleton synergy cards. So your Kazakus, and the class ones like Raza, which have been nerfed obviously, Inkmaster Solia, and Cruel. And then we're also losing some other, like, the hand buff mechanic stuff was never really that relevant.
Yeah, so none of those cards are even actually listed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even actually think of a single one has seen any competitive play for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the other key card that I think is worth highlighting is Draconid Operative, and we'll talk a little bit about that just now when we get on to the decks. That's another key card that's moving. And then obviously there's also the 2 Hall of Fame cards, which we've spoken about before, being Ice Block and Cold Light Oracle, that are rotating out. So the big question is, where does this leave us in terms of, what decks are going to be good going forward? Who's going to be the winners and losers of this standard year rotation? And to answer that question, we are going to return to a segment we've done previously, looking at winners and losers. We looked at it last time for the patch. I can't remember the patch number now. 10.4, I think it was the one that nerfed.
10.2.
10.2. Yeah, sorry. The one that nerfed patches, Raza, Bone Mare, etc.
This gives me a flashback to chess, because it used to be quite a relevant rule in chess.
Okay. Okay. Looking back at that patch, we had a winners and losers segment. We're going to take a lot of the top meta decks and kind of decide whether they're going to be winners or losers based on the standard year rotation. And this is kind of like relative, because obviously most of these decks are going to lose at least one card most of the time. But we need to look at the severity of it is of what it is, like how big the actual change is. Sorry. So
Yeah.
let's say we're gonna start here with Priest and Control Priest to start off with. Now Control Priest is losing Pint-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness, Shadow Word Horror, Draconid Operative,
Oof.
Netherspite Historian. I mean, these are all really key cards. The Draconid Operative, the Netherspite Historian, key for value. The Potion of Madness, the Pint-Sized Potion, and the Shadow Word Horror, really key to, control the board. So, I mean, I think we'd have to say Control Priest is sitting at a pretty big loser, right?
No, for sure. I mean, it loses a lot of its sustain in a way. Quite a lot of it, fair bit of its removal. I mean, like we see, like you say, Potion of Madness. We see Priest of the Feast.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of its tools that it used to get rid of early aggro, it's losing. So
Yeah, and your Greater
yeah,
Healing
definitely
Potion.
a major loser. A greater healing potion as well. So
Yeah,
all round, definitely a loser
yeah,
in its
and
current form.
yeah, and I mean Dragonfire Potion as well. Not that that's been relevant for a while recently, but that is another kind of control tool that the deck is going to lose.
Yeah.
And then next we have even more dragon-centric priest, and this is the kind of combo dragon priest. This is a deck which, whilst it's not losing its key combo pieces, the Divine Spirit Inner Fire combo, it's not losing Radiant Elemental or Nullshire Cleric, some of the really key cards. It's once again losing that Netherspite Historian, the Draconid Operative, so it's losing a lot of its dragon synergy. Potion of
Yeah.
Madness for the kind of steal your guy and kill you with it kind of game plan. And so, I mean, where this kind of leaves Dragon Combo Priest is it still has its combo there, but it's nowhere near as powerful without the board control tools. There's not as many ways to activate Dustbreaker. And
Yeah.
with the new expansion, we're not really sure how many dragons we're going to be getting.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. So I think for the deck to be good in its current form, you would need a really powerful bid, like I would say 3 to 6 cost dragon, something that basically acts as a replacement for the operative. Otherwise, I mean, what I could quite easily see if this deck still remains relevant, it could shift towards a more cycle heavy version, where
Yeah.
basically you drop the dragon synergy completely and you run your cards like your Acolyte of Pain, your Novice Engineers, your Loot Order, just to try and find that the combo pieces faster, to try and win a lot faster than trying to sustain yourself with the dragon package a lot of the times.
Yeah, so whilst the core is kind of still there in how the combo works, the big thing that it's losing is just its ability to get to a stage where it can make that happen. Another card is Bookworm as well, which has been coming into the lists a lot more recently, and so Dragon Combo Priest definitely going to be a loser as well. Next we have Spiteful Priest, which is a deck that is kind of losing a little bit of the dragon package as well. The Dustbreaker is still quite important to a deck that doesn't have any spells for early control to kind of have a way to come back on the board. So losing any kind of support for Dustbreaker is definitely going to make the deck weaker. But overall, it's not really losing many of its important tools. Free from Ambers from Ungoro as one of its big spells. Obviously, Mind Control is classic. Spiteful Summoner is Kobolds and Catacombs. So, it's not really losing any of its big tools, just some of its kind of smaller pieces, losing the Cabal Talon Priest as well.
Talon Priest was just a solid early game minion, right? A
Yeah.
lot of times you wouldn't even mind just playing it as a 3-drop.
Yeah. So it's going to be important to see if Priest gets any kind of tempo-y minions that can fit in this deck. It needs to have minions that will be able to do something more, let's say, proactive on the board in a way that they can kind of replace spells. Maybe some rush minions. That would be really good for Spiteful
Oh
Priest.
yeah, actually that's true.
So, I mean, overall, we Spiteful Priest is losing a bit, but compared to everything else, would you say it's a winner or a loser?
I would say lean towards winner, considering it maintains its core of Spiteful Summoner, Free from Amber, and Mind Control. Like the fact that it doesn't lose
Yeah.
anything critical, I would say it's probably a winner. And I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw it still being a really powerful deck going forward.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that whilst it loses some of its important tools, there's definitely going to be a way to build the deck that it's still going to be relevant. So we're going to put Spiteful Priest down as a winner. So now moving on to one of the other most powerful classes in the meta right now, and that's Warlock. We're going to start with Control Warlock. So this is the deck that runs Rin very often, runs Void Lords, generally without the weapon and without the cubes, but most importantly as well, has Nzoth in the deck. And Nzoth, Mistress of Mixtures, these are two of the key cards that the deck is going to be losing. Do you think
Yeah.
Control Warlock is really still going to be viable in that kind of shell without Nzoth?
So, I mean, for quite a while, a lot of the versions actually didn't run in Zoth at all. So I think the deck must still be a thing. Losing Mistress obviously does hurt its early game a little bit, I think. But ultimately, it retains most of the core. So I think the deck will probably still be quite good because it's one of those cases of I think the decks that it's weak to are losing more than it is. So I would
Sure.
probably say it's closer to. I would think it's closer to a winner.
I think that the way to look at Control Warlock itself, removing it from Cube, right? So we're talking about the
Yeah. Oh
non-Cube
yeah.
version. I think Control Warlock, I would have to say is a loser because ultimately its biggest late game value it has is the Gul'dan and Zoth turns.
Oh yes.
And
Yeah.
with losing that, the Gul'dan alone is not going to necessarily be enough to carry the deck. And I could see it kind of fading and not being anywhere as useful as Cube Warlock, right? Like you're probably better off
Yes.
if you want to tech in some of the extra control tools into Cube Warlock. You're probably better off doing that. You could tech in a Rin or something there, but I don't really see any reason to play control over Cube
Oh yes.
specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. With regards to like the giants as well.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna put Control Warlock as a loser. I mean, the deck will still be playable, but whether it's worth playing over something like Cube Warlock is going to be a question.
Yep.
So then we do have Cube Lock. Also, as you were kind of talking about it in the Control Warlock context, but I think for Cube Lock especially, like they often didn't used to run in Zoth and now do, and that's largely because of the Control Warlocks that are around. They have to run a slightly greedier list in order to survive and have enough board refills against in those matchups. So we could definitely see Cube Lock still being fine with post and Zoth rotation. I think losing Mistress of Mixtures hurts a little bit because that's another life gain source that can be quite important against aggro. And I'm sure we will still have some other aggro decks that will exist. But
Yeah.
overall, the key cards there in Cube Lock are still going to be there.
But I think it's also like you say when you go to the value game, the fact that everybody's losing in Zoth means
Yeah.
that so in those sort of very late game value games, everybody's losing. Everybody's losing the same cards, so you don't. It's not as bad, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just one class losing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's going to leave Cube Lock as a pretty easy winner here because most of its core pieces are remaining. It's definitely a good deck to be playing and learning now, or at least, it's a deck that's worth crafting some of the cards towards because we don't see it kind of going anywhere anytime soon unless the meta changes quite drastically. And then next we have Zoo Warlock. So Zoo Warlock is losing some cards like Darkshire Councilman, and most importantly, I think Malkazar's Imp, which has been prevalent in pretty much all the Zoo decks for a long time. Whether they were going with the Demon Buff plan, which is also losing Blood Fury Potion, or whether they were
And
going
the Crystal
more
Weaver.
and Crystal Weaver, yeah, or whether they were going more with the Discard plan, which they're also losing Silverware Golem for that. So both of those plans are definitely weakened. So leaving us back with just the core Zoo build, maybe one of the like Keleseth lists, for example. Those generally tended to not necessarily run Darkshire Councilman all the time these days. So I think they kind of get away with not playing.
So the more
with losing
classical
Darkshire Councilman.
non-discard zoos might still be a thing in some
Yeah.
form, especially. I mean, obviously depending on what the new cards are, but I think Zoo, Demon Zoo's a loser, but I think like sort of the classical Zoo's probably a winner.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to underestimate the impact that a 1 mana 1/3 has on turn one, though. I think that's going to be really important. But a few other decks are also losing their 1 mana 1/3s, notably Paladin in the Valfin Inquisitor. So I think overall Zoo is probably a deck that I would class as a winner. I think most of its important tools are still going to be there, and with some of the other decks that are honestly just better at fighting for board than it right now, losing some of their important tools, I think Zoo should be fine and overall a winner. One other priest deck we kind of forgot to mention isn't actually here. It's also Big Priest, but that's definitely a massive loser because losing Bonds might make the deck entirely unplayable, though they do have some other cards like Shadow Essence to
And
kind of bring out
Spellstone.
their... But they're also losing Yashaj, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not sure any of those things are good without your charge. So I think overall we're probably going to say Big Priest is a massive loser, almost dead at this point.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's definitely one of the biggest losers.
yeah. Uh, and next we have OTK Paladin. So this is obviously the deck built around Auction Master Beardo and the Uther Hero Power. And much like Big Priest, without Auction Master Beardo, OTK Paladin is not really going to be a thing. And never mind the fact
Yeah,
you're also losing Burgly Bully.
yeah. So I mean, there's basically going to be, unless there's some other way, new way of being able to recur that hero power in multiple times in the same turn, you know, that's not, without Burgly Bully, that's not happening, right?
Yeah. So OTK Paladin, definitely a loser here.
Yeah, like dead losing.
And next we have Dudadin. So compared to its Murloc Paladin brother, it's definitely losing less. It's one of the big cards it is losing is Stand Against Darkness, though. The card that generates 5 dudes on the board. So that's going to be quite a big loss. The interesting thing is going to be to see whether it can kind of fit the shell with Baku that gives you the upgraded hero power. Because, generating 2 dudes with your hero power can kind of maybe make up for the loss of Stand Against Darkness. But then you kind of can't play cards like Life Fuse Stegodon or even Sangi Batarium. So
Ooh, yeah.
overall, that's definitely going to hurt Dudadin a lot. And Call to Arms. Wait, you can't play Call to Arms.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, no, Odd Paladin is not a
Terrible,
thing.
kind of, I think almost very close to deal breakers, I think.
Yeah, maybe some kind of dude shell where you don't need to run Call to Arms is a thing, but
Or
Call to
Sunkeeper.
Arms is super powerful.
Sunkeeper.
Yeah, Sunkeep is also super
Sunkeeper's
powerful for
literally the only
Dudadin,
reason
right?
you can beat some of the control decks is because you have that Sunkeeper blowout, right?
Yeah, but okay, let's say we're not losing we're not going the odd route with Dudadin. We just need maybe one other dude generation card. I mean, most of the other key ones are staying, your Vine Cleavers, your Dry Gulch Jailers. Maybe we even play 2 Dry Gulch Jailers, right?
Yeah, possible. I mean, Juggler's not going anywhere.
Yeah, Juggler's not going anywhere. Righteous Protector's not going anywhere. Argent Squire's not going. Call to Arms. So, I mean, overall, like, even though Dudadin is losing a key card and Stand Against Darkness, a good way to refill the board, can we really say that it's a loser?
I don't know. Like, once again, it's that whole case of it's losing something important. I don't think it's losing as much as other classes. So, like, for me, I would probably say it's like kind of in the middle, leaning towards winner.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say it's a clear winner. I would say it's leaning towards a winner. That would be sort of what I would say, right?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. It's definitely not in a really bad space after the note. It just needs that one card to make, help generate dudes, that kind of thing.
Or keep dudes alive, right?
Yeah.
Like just some sort of dude synergy really is basically what we're saying.
Yeah, and
whether it's buffing or
yeah, when it comes to keeping dudes alive, they are losing Steward of Darkshire as well. Although that's largely fallen out of the decks these days. That is worth noting.
And all paladins are losing Rallying Blade as well.
Yeah,
which
and
is
Rallying
a massive
Blade.
weapon. I mean, there's still the Maul, so I mean that's still. I mean,
yeah, the deck has more than enough weapons, but the Rallying Blade definitely did synergize well with the rallying with the Righteous Protectors and the Argent Squires, and also if you got Divine Shield for your dudes from like a Stegodon. Then obviously it also was very good because of there's a lot of X3s in the meta now, minions with 3 health like Northshire Clerics and Rockpool Hunters and those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, goodbye Fiery War X 2.0, right?
Yeah. And so next we have Murloc Paladin. We briefly spoke about this. I mean, the big thing to me that Murloc Paladin is losing is Valfin Inquisitor.
Oh yeah, and a little less, but it's just as important as Gramstickel Chun.
Yeah.
So I mean, it loses 2 pretty solid 1-drops. So I mean, you still have your Argent Protector, your Righteous Protector, and you still have Murloc Tidecaller.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're losing 4 out of 6 1-drop Murlocs. I think is gonna make the deck significantly weaker, if not.
Yeah.
Kill it or not?
I mean, I think you're losing the 2 key cards that you want in your opening a lot of the time.
Exactly.
Tidecaller is just as good, if not better than Chum sometimes, but it's not often as good as Valfin Inquisitor. And Valfin Inquisitor also usually has the advantage of turning your hero power into generating Murlocs, right? And that's very powerful going into the late game. with cards like Gentle Megasaur. And I mean, Gentle Megasaur is a big card they're not losing, which might be enough to salvage the deck. But overall, I actually think Valford Inquisitor alone is enough of a loss to say that Murloc Paladin is a loser. I think
Yeah.
Valford Inquisitor is a bigger loss to Murloc Paladin than Stand Against Darkness is to Doodadin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I mean, just that because the number of times where you could kind of go mid late game where just because you had the Murloc hero power, you could go you could, let's say, go a Gentle Megasaur onto 2 or 3 1/1 Murlocs and all of a sudden present a sizable threat, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now that's no longer possible. So it'll be very interesting. Yeah, I mean, sort of a card that kind of saw play in the beginning, but not so much anymore. That also is being lost is Finger.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm not so in recent times. Not really such a big card as such in Murloc Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other key Murlocs are neutral. Oh, sorry, classic.
Yeah,
Like
like the War
War
Leader.
Leader and even
Hardcore,
Bluegill, if you want to run the anti-caller, yeah. So I mean, maybe the deck still has some chance, but overall, I'm gonna have to put it as a loser just because I
Yeah,
think losing
definitely
Valfen
a
Inquisitor is
pretty
a
big
big
loser, I
loss.
think.
It'll only need one early game Murloc to still be a thing,
One or
but
two, I think, to be. I would say you need, but like
I mean, there
you
are
need.
other Murlocs you can play, like Oracle and stuff like that, or even
Ugh.
Bluegill. I know, but
Uh,
I don't think the chum is so much of an issue. I think it's
yeah,
really the
it's definitely the Valfen.
Valfen.
And even I don't know. I see the Rallying Blade being able to try keep your Murlocs alive just that much longer as well for things like your Gentle Megasaur. I think is going to be quite critical as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're gonna have Murloc Paladin down as a loser.
Yep.
Basically just on the back of that Valfen Inquisitor. Next we have Control Mage. So Control Mage is losing. So we're talking about kind of your like big spell Control Mage here. So it's losing Medivh's Valet, Fyland's Portal. Those are two of the kind of key cards it's losing. Valet is a good way of controlling the board early on once you have a
Yep.
secret that isn't kind of based, it isn't a spell, so it doesn't make your Dragon's Fury weaker if you're running kind of the secret package. I think you get away with losing Medivh's Valet, it's not that important, but I think they're going to need another big spell, right? And ideally one that can deal with single target minions to kind of
Yeah.
replace Fyland's Portal.
I mean, you still have. I mean, on the sort of you still have obviously your wide AoE like Flame Strike and Blizzard.
Yeah,
And you still have to a certain degree Meteor, I suppose. But the Finance Portal was also just so good in the fact of besides killing, it also created a board presence. So it had that doubly, that very powerful swing effect. It
Yeah.
wasn't just I kill your stuff and you get to redevelop. It was a case of I kill your stuff and I then have something to contest whatever you play next, which was I think a really important part of it.
Yeah, but I think if it was just those cards that were that the deck was losing, I would say Control Mage was a winner. But we're overlooking the most important card that it's losing, and
Oh,
that
yes.
is Ice Block.
Oh right, yes.
So now Ice Block is the card that really makes me go, I'm not sure about Control Mage anymore. It's going to need some more defensive tools, and it's going to need powerful ones to make up for the loss of Ice
combo
Block.
with, especially to combo with something like the Arcane Artificer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were saying, maybe Arcane Artificer might keep it alive, but people forget is that Arcane Artificer, it buys your armor, but at the end of the day, it doesn't guarantee you that extra turn.
Yeah.
And that
Usually
is
it's used. Yeah. Usually it's used after the Ice Block to
Yeah,
generate the
to
armor
get-
and then recover the board. So having to use those things preemptively means you get a lot less value out of them. So I mean, I think it's keeping a lot of its core AOE tools still. I mean, you kind of mentioned them as well as Dragon's Fury.
Yeah.
So I think that the deck should still be okay, but losing Ice Block is the thing that really makes me worried and almost makes me want to put it in the loser bracket.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, for me, I think the big question becomes is Frost Lich Dana enough to keep the archetype relevant, right? I think that for
Yeah.
me that kind of is what the big
Definitely.
question is without Ice Block, are Arcane Artificer and Frost Lich Dana, do they give you enough sustain and the ability to not die? And obviously, if there are any cards in Duskwood,
The Witchwood.
Witchwood, that one, to keep it go, keep yourself alive, right?
Yeah. I think I think it's a little bit like Murloc Paladin in that it only needs a little bit of support to still be a thing, but that support is going to have to be very powerful to make up for the
It needs
loss
to
of
be
Ice
a really
Block.
impactful card, definitely.
So I'm going to have to say the Control Mage is a loser because I think that the Ice
Ice
Block
block.
is just too big a loss. It's one of the most powerful cards that is going to be leaving. Uh, and it's a card that really is, unlike cards like in Zoth that were used by a lot of decks, and there were also a lot of Control Mages that used in Zoth. We have to remember the Syndragosa kind of synergy built Control Mages. So we're going to have to go back to the more Alana Dragoncaller synergies. And so those Control Mages are also losing the Zoth game plan as well, which is relevant. And Dirty Rat, another card that was popular in a lot of Control Mages. So, losing all those cards, and particularly Ice Block, I think it's going to need some powerful cards to make up for it. And now Secret Mage, the other major mage archetype. The cards it's losing really, once again, Medivh's Valet and Firelands Portal. Medivh's Valet a lot more relevant in this deck because of the fact that you generally have more secrets and you need often use it for the damage. But yeah, I mean, I think there's some other big ones that you were about to mention.
Yeah, Cabal Lucky, I mean, it's basically a smaller Control Mage, but the real big one that I think almost will change the archetype completely is Cabal Crystal Runner.
Yeah.
The fact that even with just one secret, playing the secret on 3 and playing a Cabal Crystal Runner on turn 4 as a 4-mana 5/5 is strong a lot of times, but very often you could play it as a 2-mana or even well, I was going to say free mana, but a 0-mana 5/5 made it very powerful, especially after your Eloneth turn, where you would be able to, empty out your hand, and all of a sudden you go free 5/5, free 5/5.
Yeah.
It was kind of like corridor creep in that sense, but obviously a lot more conditional. So I think for me, the Cabal Crystal Runner is enough to make the deck a loser. I mean, some sort of Tempo Mage might still be a thing because there's still powerful secrets in the form of your explosive runes and none of the secrets are going away. It's just the cards that synergize around them.
Yeah, and the Arcanologist is not going away either.
Arcanologist is going away. Control Mage isn't going anywhere. Mana Worm isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's not going to be as heavily secret reliant.
Yeah, I think we could definitely see some kind of mage that still has Eloneth, still has the burn, but it's not going to really be built around that secret core as much. I don't think. Explosive runes is still another important tool to deal damage, so we might still see it have, Arcanologists, Mana Worms, Kirintor Mages, but without the real big secret payoff. I don't know if we'll necessarily be calling that Secret Mage or just Burn Mage at that point.
Or Tempo Mage. Or even more close, probably just be Tempo Mage.
But I mean, even Medivh's Valet and Firelands Portal, those are the two best tempo tools in the deck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not sure you're even going to be a Tempo Mage. You're going to be a Burn Mage. Get some early damage in with minions and then fireball them to death after Eloneth, right? Because all of your tempo tools, the ones that deal damage and develop, they go away.
Yeah, this is very true, yeah.
So I'm not really sure it's even a Tempo Mage at that point. So, I mean, is that enough for us to put it as a loser? I mean, the big key cards that are still there are Eloneth, right? There was definitely going to be some kind of aggressive mage that plays Eloneth, but not Secret Mage, yeah.
So I definitely put for me the defining card is Cabal Crystal Runner and Firelands Portal. I think those two cards are enough for me to say I would definitely say it's a loser. It's definitely on the losing side of things.
Yeah. And moving on to Druid, we have a very quick one here, Jade Druid. As we mentioned, all the Jade mechanics are going away, so Jade Druid can immediately go into the loser bracket. We don't really need much discussion about that one.
Yeah, Aggro Druid, doesn't play anymore, but I know the main thing it loses Enchanted Raven.
And Mark of the Lotus.
Oh, does lose Mark of the Lotus?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Of
That's
course.
also
okay. So those are two very... So the fact that it wasn't a deck right now, it will probably need something very special for it to be a deck again, I think. Still.
Yeah, I think the Mark of the Lotus loss is absolutely massive for the deck. If it wasn't for that, then I think the deck would still be fine, and I would kind of call it a winner. But overall, it's probably it's probably a loser, right? I mean, as you say, it's also losing the Enchanted Raven and the Mark of your Charge.
And the fact that it really lost patches essentially
Yeah.
after the nerf was, I think, but that already hurted a lot.
Yeah, and it also lost Galactic Crawler because everyone lost patches.
Uh,
And if Murloc Paladins are not going to be popular, it's going to lose Hungry Crab too. So it doesn't really even have those
that's-
tech reasons.
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it loses its beast synergy in general anyway because of Mark of Yashaj, right?
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
that kind of goes away. That's also obviously Whispers the old
The deck will
cards.
change
So.
completely. Like, if anything, if there is an aggressive druid, it would look very different to what we currently see.
Yeah, and so I mean, overall, it's not necessarily in a good place right now, but we probably have to call it a loser.
I probably have to call it.
But because of Living Mana, it could definitely still be a deck in the same way, we mentioned with Secret Mage and Alunath as a key card, and with Living Mana, there could definitely be some new aggro druids. So I think overall aggro druid could still be fine, but in its format that it's currently in, I'd say that it is indeed a loser.
Yeah.
Next, we have Kingsbane Rogue, another deck that's suffering from the rotation of a classic card to the Hall of Fame. That obviously being Cold Light Oracle. Kingsbane Rogue in its current iterations is pretty much just Mill Rogue.
It's a mill rogue.
Yeah.
It goes for the fatigue mill plan.
Yeah.
The fact that it also loses the big pirates, I think, as well. You
Yeah,
mentioned.
it loses Nagakose, Satsi Squidface, which are two key pirates for buffing your weapon. So that's also going to hurt a lot. So I think, Kingsbane Rogue is a pretty solid loss, although we could see some other kind of, if they develop any other synergy with Kingsbane, which I think is something they could do going forward. Very often, Blizzard seems slow to introduce the synergy when they started off with something for Rogue. Like they give you a little bit in one expansion and then a little bit more in the next expansion. It's kind of seems to be their style with a lot of Rogue development that I've seen. Although, that's kind of common across a lot of their classes. But in particular with Rogue. And if we see any of the weapon development now, it could go in a very different direction. But as it is right now as a Mill Rogue,
yeah, I was gonna say it will not if Kingsbane still sees play in a deck, it will be in a very different archetype. It will no longer be a fatigue mold deck.
Yeah.
It might be a more mid-range deck. It might be a more value-orientated deck. So it will be interesting to see what they do.
Yep. And then next we have Miracle Rogue. This is a deck that's not losing too much. Loses like Counterfeit Coin and Hallucination, I think. Is it? Oh wait, no, Hallucination's from Angora. Never mind.
Right, so literally, so it almost loses. It loses Shaku.
It loses Counterfeit Coin, Shaku, which wasn't seeing any play anyway. It's lost a lot over the years. So it's about time it didn't really lose anything in this rotation. So the deck could still definitely be powerful. Feldorai Strider is kind of one of the major key cards right now.
Minstrel as well.
Yeah, it's losing Arcane Giant, some of the older lists that used to run the Vanish Arcane Giant Valera thing. So the greedier lists are losing out, but that hasn't been popular for a while, as that's not really the position of the deck right now. It generally goes with the Leroy Cold Blood kind of game plan for a finisher. So I think Miracle Rogue overall should still be a winner. The Counterfeit Coin could easily be replaced with some of the kind of...
can only make it better theoretically, right?
Yeah, Counterfeit Coin is a card that's definitely been more relevant in Miracle Rogue than we kind of initially thought it would be. Yeah. And if they get any kind of new mechanic to give them coins, a new Tomb Pillager, for instance, that would be massive.
I'm just shuddering.
There are coins in a forest, right? That's how that works. That's on theme.
Oh god!
Don't say there's coins in the forest.
I suppose there's rogues in a forest, right? I can't.
Yeah, rogues are sneaky and witchy, and I don't know, witches give coins or something. Let's move on, and I'm gonna pretend like coins are a thing. I'm gonna hope.
Moving on.
So Miracle Rogue is gonna be classified as a winner here. Next we have Spell Hunter. This kind of leads us into a discussion about hunters in general. Spell Hunter is kind of the only real viable hunter now. We kind of have a little bit of Secret Hunter, but Spell Hunter is the main one, and I think Spell Hunter is kind of dead because, funnily enough, the Spell Hunter wasn't really built around any of this, only having spells in your deck synergy cards. Like Rock Delar saw a little bit of play. To My Side saw almost none since release. It was really just all about bonds into your charge, and both of those two cards are going.
And both of those are going. So
yeah.
Hunter it's also losing some of its sort of less played mid-rangey companions. So it's losing Alley Cat. It's losing from Karazhan. It's losing Kindly Grandmother. Cards that currently. It's also losing Fiery Bat.
Yeah.
Cards that don't see play in Hunter now, but like in not too long ago, mid-range Hunters, they were quite staple cards. So I mean, Hunter usually doesn't have a problem because it always has usually enough early game beasts to replace with. I mean, you still got Dire Wolf Alpha, you still got Dire Mole, you
Yeah.
still got Crackling Razormaw, you still got Scavenging Hyena from Classic. There's still Bear Shark is still, I think, in the
Yeah.
meta. So mid-range Hunter could probably still be a thing. But probably like most mid-range hunters, it will only ever be okay. Like it will probably not. It's
Yeah.
not likely to be the meta-defining deck. It will just be a deck that will be a very good deck for newer players to get it to play, but it's not likely to feature top levels of competitive play. I mean, that's generally what happens.
Yeah, Hunter's definitely in a losing position as its main archetype is pretty much going away in the
Yeah.
Spell Hunter, right? And as you mentioned, there are a lot of other key cards, those other kind of cheap early game beasts that are going away. Um, so I mean, Hunter definitely in a bad spot. There was something else I was just thinking that Hunter is losing, but now I can't entirely remember what it was. I mean, Candleshot's still there as another early game tool, so
Well,
that could
yeah.
be
I mean, it already
relevant.
lost the patches in it. It lost the whole pirate vibes a while ago with the nerf. So I mean, that's
Yeah, but I mean, Candleshot has still been relevant in the deck anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Spell Hunter is probably definitely going to be a loser, and so is the class as a whole right now. So
Yeah.
yeah. Moving on to our second last, deck and class basically, is Shaman. Shaman's losing a
Yeah.
lot of its evolve tools,
Ooh.
notably Evolve,
And
and
evolve.
Doppelgangster as well.
It loses Evolve, Doppelgangster. I mean, it loses the removal package of Devolve and Maelstrom Portal.
Jade
It loses
Claws,
all the Jade,
Jade
Jade Claw,
Lightning.
Jade Lightning. I mean, we said all the Jade cards. So
Yeah.
Evolve Shaman. The interesting thing though about it is you still have Unstable Evolution and Throw. So
Yeah.
the question really is, I mean, and Serenade Chain Gang is still there. So what ultimately comes down to, are those cards enough to keep? Because obviously initially the reason you played it was Doppelgangster Evolve. But now the question is, are those the cards remaining? Are those enough to keep the archetype alive in some form?
Yeah.
I think
And
you still have Corridor Creepers.
yeah,
I think from
there's
below it's also
also
going on.
yeah, I think from below is also rotating. There's
Yeah,
also some of the like echo cards that could maybe allow you to kind of flood the board in a similar way to, they could be understated for their mana, and so it could be good to evolve if you can flood the board with them. But they're not going to really match the power of Doppelgangster Evolve. Not that that's been very popular in the metagame for a while now,
it's
but
better
it
than
was, yeah, it was pretty powerful. And I mean, I think overall, Shaman probably is a loser. Also because now the freeze package is just a higher percentage of the cards they have, and that package is awful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wonder if they will. I'm curious if Blizzard will try to push freeze. If they will try to print some really terrible freeze cards again.
I
Like
think they
this.
tweeted out something with like Burlock's picture today, and somebody was like, "Please don't print more freeze cards for Shaman. Stop
Yeah,
it."
please. Like, stop it, Blizzard. Like when Blizzard have an idea, they have an idea, and they wanna, they wanna follow through. So people are just hoping, please either introduce something new, different, or just give us decent elementals. But for the love of everything good, please do not give us free synergy cards.
Yeah,
I do not want another cryostasis. Was
yeah,
it cryostasis?
yeah. That's the one that freezes and gives +3/+3.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So Shaman as a whole definitely going to be a loser from its position of already not being particularly good. And another class that's not been particularly good, but has seen a little bit more play recently in tournaments and even on ladder. Even Pyro Warrior has been seeing a little bit of play at like High Legend and is theoretically a good deck right now because it can kind of beat on combo priests, but that's another story. Pirate Warrior is definitely going bye-bye. A lot of its powerful pirates are getting lost. Naga Corsair and Patches,
Patches.
obviously. The Nzos first mate as well. Uh,
Cultist, blood cell
yeah,
cultist
and
is
Blood
still.
Cell Cultist. So basically, all of the reasons to play Pirate Warrior
Yeah.
are going
Oh
to
god.
wild for good.
Uh,
So Pirate Warrior is pretty dead, and then Dead Man's Hand Warrior or Fatigue Warrior is losing Cold Light Oracle. So the Fatigue game plan is kind of also not going to be there for the Fatigue Warriors. Maybe we could see some kind of Control Warrior. Taunt Warrior loses a little bit. Not that it's been very relevant for a while. So I mean,
They also lose sleep of the fishes,
Yeah.
which I think was quite a relevant removal tool.
Yep.
So I mean, once again, Control Warrior, like as we know it, as the fatigue version will probably not exist anymore. But I mean, there's this possibility, especially with was it Baku? Is it called?
Yeah.
Where I mean, the potential for a Control variant revolving around odd cost is a possibility. But it's too early to tell for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, for this, whereas with all these other cards, we've been focusing only on the cards that are leaving rather than the cards coming in.
So this is definitely a loss, a loser.
Yeah, so I mean, based on that, we'd have to say Warrior is a loser. And that kind of completes our loser-winner section. As you can see, there's obviously a lot more losers than there are winners from this. And even the winners are kind of all losing cards, as you would expect in any kind of standard rotation like this. So, this is kind of at least some way to look at to the way that the direction the meta is going to go. And I think the cube locks is going to be one of the big winners because the combo priest is losing a lot, and that's one of the best counters right now to cube lock as well.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Maybe Miracle Rogue will rise as the deck to counter cube lock.
As Dib hopes, Dib lives and waits for the day. He trolls. He scours Twitter every day waiting for Gyong to post his number one legend Miracle Rogue.
Yeah. Well, there are some that still believe in the power of Miracle Rogue and can see the true light of the ultimate Hearthstone deck. But that's another story for another day. And Rogue actually hasn't been doing that badly recently in tournaments as well.
I was very surprised when I opened. I mean, we're going to go on to the esports segment now, where we're going to talk about ACT Bangkok.
That's
I opened
exactly
the top 8, and I opened up top 8 deck list, and I saw it's like 5. How many rogues was it top 8?
4 rogues in top 8 from the HCT Bangkok, which was a big open tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 quest rogues, 1 Kingsbane, and then 1 Miracle.
Yeah. So Crane and Ravius were playing Quest Rogue. Ravius is somebody that's played Quest Rogue a lot, even in recent times on ladder, since the nerf done really well with it. So it wasn't a surprise to see him playing Quest Rogue, honestly. Crane, I think, played a lot of Quest Rogue back before the nerf as well. But most people did back then. Then Real was playing the Kingsbane Rogue, which is a little bit more of a surprise to see in the top here, but definitely something he was trying to target some of the greedier lineups with that. And then Ilsori was playing the Miracle Rogue, which had a few tournament-specific tech choices in as well. But overall, I mean, we saw a lot of the Korean players doing quite well. In fact, Shanghai walked away as the winner of HCT Bangkok. Not a player very well known to us. I mean, Rivius walked away second as well, so it was 1 and 2 for Korea, I believe. Tom 60229 and Crane were obviously the more well-known players to make the top 8.
And sorry, just a random thing to insert there before we move on is that I saw Tom 60229 apparently he's recording a voice line for one of the new cards.
Oh, that's cool.
Just a random tidbit.
Oh, okay. So that's like maybe that's gonna be some joke about the number.
Exactly.
Like Fiery Bats was about him being Firebat, but maybe they'll make some joke about the number because it's difficult to make a joke about the word Tom, like his name. So
yeah, apparently there is, but moving on. Sorry.
so that'll be interesting. I don't know if we'll necessarily see that in this expansion rather than the next one, probably.
No, apparently it's a card. It's a Witchwood card. They really released the name. I can't remember. I think it might have been the one with Rush. I'm not sure. I remember reading it somewhere.
Okay, I'm a bit surprised that they have done it that quickly, to be honest. As I imagined most of the card design was done long before Tom even won. So.
Yeah, but just remember, it's like a case of a stage development. You probably have the card, but then close to the time, you then add the voice effects and things. Like you probably had the base design of the card ages ago.
But I would have.
You could have kept it open as the World Champs card, right?
Maybe, yeah, sure.
I mean, you could have probably said whoever wins it, we're going to put them on this card, right?
Sure, but the point is, like, I would hope it was something more specifically designed for them in mind. And I mean, it took them longer, for example, to get like the Firebat one. That was much later.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't even really have an Osaka or Pavel one, do we?
Yeah, we already had it. Pavlin book.
Yeah, but that was before he won the World Championships. I'm not sure that counts.
Yeah, but let's not lie. Just create.
Created for him beforehand, rigged.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so we had 8 warlocks and 8 priests in the top 8 here, and 7 mages.
That's
So
not
those were the big classes that represented well. No shamans, hunters, or druids in the top 8. Um,
Yeah.
we still had that one fatigue warrior. So I mean, overall, still a relatively diverse meta. I think more so, and if you look at the decks as a whole, I mean, the big
Yeah.
surprise to me was really, well, maybe not surprise to me, but the big surprise as a whole was more how well Rogue did this tournament. So I think it actually might have, as a class, might have had the best win rate across the whole tournament, if the stats I was looking at were correct.
Also, a lot of mages. I mean, 7 mages
Yeah,
out of the 8. I mean, I think I was personally a bit surprised by the number of mages.
yeah.
Uh,
Kind of
I,
evenly
I don't
split
know, we're
between
expecting.
the big spell mages and the secret mages largely, with the one Ilsori playing the Exodia mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and check out the VODs from that if you want. And if you want to catch some more HCT action, HCT Oslo is going to be coming up this weekend. Another kind of open tournament that's going to see a lot of big names featuring and running over the next few days this weekend. So go ahead and check that out as well. But that brings pretty much a close to our esports segment for this week. And it's pretty much all the content that we actually want to cover this week. So, the main thing is about the cards that are rotating. So that kind of gives you some idea of maybe what, if you're still looking to craft some decks, maybe try and craft stuff in the winners bracket there rather than the losers bracket.
Or maybe just
And
be patient if you can as
or
well.
probably be patient. I mean, it's only probably 3 weeks now, almost or less until the expansion comes out. So
Yep.
I definitely would suggest saving. But
Yes,
if
not
you want to
saving.
try and learn a deck for it's still going to be good in the new meta, maybe you can focus on those. And also, it's just interesting to kind of discuss these things. So yeah, thanks for joining me as usual,
And
Panamonia.
hopefully next week we have some more spoilers to discuss.
Yeah, we should definitely have some more cards to discuss. Definitely keep an eye on the YouTube channel. We're going to be kind of maybe updating that a little bit more frequently than we can with the podcast, which is only once a week. Because if there's a lot of cards coming out, we don't want to be covering all of them in the podcast. Maybe we'll just highlight a few specific ones in the podcast. But if you want to see
Yep.
thoughts on all of them, definitely check out, or first impressions on all of them, definitely check out the YouTube. And you can also check out our Twitters. Pandemonia is at PandemoniaZA. Oh, sorry, at PandemoniaZA, and I am at dib_gaming. Generally, I often tend to retweet or tweet out the cards as I see them, maybe with a few lines on a brief first impression before I even think about the card very much. So that's also a good way if you're just lazy and want to try get most of your spoilers from one source. You can do that as well by following me there. And obviously, please share and like and comment on the video. Or any kind of feedback is great. And also any kind of extra exposure, sharing it with your friends on Reddit, wherever. That's all really appreciated. So that's all we have for this episode 54. Thanks a lot for joining us. Cheerio.
Cheers.